This is a list compiled based off personal experiences. There are no play scores compiled by online polls and surveys. No games are mentioned here in an attempt to please the majority. This is an honest list based on games I had a good time with during the Gamecube's reign. So, should you need another cookie cutter copy and paste list that ends with a game like Smash Bros. Or a Mario game, highly likely you won't find it here. I love or appreciate every Nintendo console with the exception of the handhelds, but in the same breath I can say I'm not a fan of Nintendo exclusives. Not a Mario fan, not a Zelda fan, and to this day I can't figure out the massive appeal of Smash or kart games. The Gamecube, released in 2001 by Nintendo. If memory serves me correctly, this was one of the few times Nintendo decided to enter the power struggle by releasing a console that packed some significant power over its competition. It was at least more powerful than the PS2, I think. I loved its basic lunchbox design, loved the size, and the controllers kinda grew on me. I still hate that C-stick, but other than that, it feels comfortable. Many games were released for this box. I, however, never quite stacked up as much for the GameCube as I did for, let's say, the Xbox and the PS2. It made it easier to make this list. Now, while there are quite a few games that I played and did like, I'm trying to round this list off to my top 20. And while I didn't hate Zelda or Mario games, don't get all bent out of shape if that Plumber and Link didn't saturate or even make it on this list. Yep, I'm not a lockstepping conformist, no matter how popular or how well a title sold. If I didn't like it, I didn't like it. So fanboys and zealots, get your pitchforks and torches ready.
Mario?
Again, these lists are in no particular order, other than maybe alphabetical. So let's do this. Batman Vengeance, released November 17th, 2001. Batman Vengeance was in a lot of first games I got for the console. Sometimes when making these lists I wonder if it's just that excitement of getting a new console that makes some of these games even make it on here. You know that feeling when you just got a brand new console, never played it before that day, and just about any game you play for the first time ends up memorable. I mean, hell, I actually liked Rise Son of Rome. I really liked it. Anyway, Batman Vengeance at the time was to me one of the best Batman games I ever played. Ran through it all the way till the end, and from what I can recall, enjoyed every step of the way. It's just that, when playing some of these old games again, with their archaic designs, it kind of feels hard to rekindle that flame.
Capcom versus SNK 2.
Released September 23rd, 2002, this was the second version of this game I owned. The huge difference with this version, with me at least, is similar to the Wii U's version of Tekken Tag 2. There was this dumbed down control option where you could execute special moves with the touch of a single button, or in this particular case, a touch of the C-stick. It's not that I can't execute a Hadouken or Lei Wulong's combos without a handicap setting, but sometimes I don't mind driving an automatic car over a stick shift, if you get what I'm saying. Yeah, I don't mind taking it easy sometimes, it's really not that serious. Capcom vs SNK 2 for the GameCube definitely had some good days with this version. Released January 7th, 2002 by Pseudo Interactive and EA, Cell Damage was again one of those first few games I got with the GameCube. Now, be it as I said before, due to the excitement of owning a new console or not, Cell Damage was a decent title. This chaotic style of game, which I put in a section with even games like Smash Bros. And Power Stone, where 4 or more persons or the CPU go at it till 3 stop breathing, isn't my preferred genre, but I get Cell Damage's appeal. It was a wacky competitive racing game, for lack of a better term, that with or without human opponents could keep you busy for hours. Another thing about getting a new console, particularly as a kid or a young man, you don't always have the funds after buying the console to go grab a dozen games to go along with it, so you end up with just 1 or 2 for a while. That's how I was able to appreciate titles like Cell Damage. I didn't have much games for the GameCube at the time, so I guess I made the best of what I had.
That's a fine howdy-do.
Die Hard Vendetta. Now this is a tricky one, kinda like Minority Report on my PS2 list. On November 19th, 2002, Bit Studios and Sierra Entertainment released Die Hard Vendetta. I say tricky because in hindsight I look back at a few games like this one and ask myself, what the fuck did I really like about this title? But I did like this game. Long before Battlefield Hardline and their Arrest the Fugitives gimmick, Die Hard Vendetta was doing it. I also like the fast-paced gun-wielding action here. Some senseless violence coupled with some voice actor trying real hard to match the wit of the original John McClane. This isn't a game I'd enjoy playing today, but for its time, it did the job.
Proximity mines.
On March 30th, 2002, BAM Entertainment released Driven, based on the Sly Stallone movie of the same name. I know video games based on movies are supposed to be shot on, I get it, but hell, I like the Street Fighter movie game. Yeah, I did. And again, Driven was in my first batch, so I played it all the way to the end in story mode and liked it very much. At that point in my gaming history, I really loved racing games, however, not F1 games. But with little to choose from, moving on past Driven wasn't much of a choice, so I took the time to appreciate it. At the time, I didn't mind the story and the controls were fine. Now, trying to play this game, no, not so much. But these lists are all about what floated my boat back then. Some of the games on this list I can still appreciate to this day and would play right now, just maybe not this one.
Tanto's up next. What's happening down there? Well, Jack, Tanto's gonna try and get back in the saddle and see if he can find the zone.
Now this right here is a game that should Nintendo decide to release an HD remake or sequel, I'll be all over this. A little bit off topic, but to this day I have not seen a single game on the Switch that makes me say yes, I need this console. With the recent Nintendo Direct, I see several games that spark my interest, but those have not been released yet. But if Eternal Darkness had a remake or sequel released on the Switch, I'll be all over it. Come on, let's be real here. Other than Breath of the Wild, what's the motivation to buy that console? Eternal Darkness, however, was and probably still is a great game. The controls feel a bit tankish to me playing it today, but this is one of those games I can safely say devs got right back in that generation.
You will now have the honor of becoming the first morsel for my lord, Chattur'gha. An appetizer for the banquet your race shall provide.
The day was August 23rd, 2003, when Nintendo and Amusement Vision gave us F-Zero GX. Now F-Zero is one of those Nintendo franchises that I'm not all batshit crazy over like most people. I however do like F-Zero games. Did from back in the Super Nintendo days, and I do love that new clone, Fast Racing Neo. It actually fills that F-Zero void quite well. I honestly see no need for, or do I miss F-Zero when playing it. F-Zero GX was a great addition to the Gamecube's lineup though, and while I didn't play it like non-stop or even to the end of the campaign, it still ranks up there as one of my favorite GameCube games. On May 27th, 2002, From Software and Activision gave us this GameCube exclusive. Lost Kingdoms was my first RPG for the system, and while I believe, if memory serves me correctly, it was a short and easy experience in comparison to other RPGs I played at the time. I remember loving every minute of it. You play as Princess Katia, or Kasha, I don't know, as you set off to save the 5 kingdoms from a mysterious evil force. There was a ton of magic, demons, and summoning abilities that you could dive into. Decent game for the time. On November the 4th, 2003, EA Games and Hypnos Entertainment displayed to me some of the GameCube's true power with Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. I'm not just talking about the FMV sequences taken straight from the movies, but the in-game graphics were also impressive. From graphics to controls to dialogue, this game was spot on. This would be one of those games that I could still pick up and play today.
And now the event set in motion at Helm's Deep will be concluded. Isengard must be cleansed.
while I was never a Mario fan, I'm still not biased. If a game looks appealing, I'll give it a shot. I'm no sports fan, but if I saw a soccer or baseball game that looked interesting, I'd give them a shot as well. And this is what happened with Luigi's Mansion. On November the 17th, 2001, Nintendo released Luigi's Mansion. They decided to give the green overalls wearing Plumber a shot at the glory. Now I got this game late in the console's life, but I always saw it on the intro to that old gaming TV show Extended Play. It was probably called GameSpot TV at the time, I think. I mean, they changed the name so many times. Anyway, I like the look of the game from seeing it constantly shown in the opening montage of that show and felt the need to get it eventually. Yeah, Illuminati brainwash complete. No, I never got far in this game, but it still stands out as one of my more memorable GameCube experiences.
Hello?
Gather around the fire as I tell you a story. Metroid Prime to me is similar to Breath of the Wild. No, while I played Metroid back on the Super Nintendo, it was one of those games that I played due to peer pressure. I played it because everyone else was playing it, similar to Ninja Gaiden. I didn't have a particular love for it, but I played it anyway because it was the hot shit back then. Now Metroid Prime, however, is that game that brought me truly into the series. I didn't play it because I thought I should. I really liked it. Same goes for Breath of the Wild. That game is the only reason I touched a Zelda game with a 10-foot pole. I've even considered trying out a few other Zelda titles because of Breath of the Wild. Now Metroid Prime, awkward controls and all, was a great experience. With all the backtracking and go find all your lost abilities bullshit, I really love this title and played it all the way to the end after picking it up shortly after its release on November the 17th, 2002. November 15th, 2004, the same guys, Retro Studios and Nintendo released the follow-up, Metroid Prime 2 Echoes. Now different patient, same treatment. Here Samus has the task to locate Federation troopers while battling through light and dark and solving puzzles. This was a good sequel, and while it's almost impossible to recreate that shock and awe value created by the first, it did a pretty good job of furthering the franchise. Released by Midway November 17th, 2002, Deadly Alliance introduced me to a new fighting system and an interesting storyline where Liu Kang was killed. You see, I like this, as I always hated that silly Bruce Lee knockoff.
Liu Kang is dead.
Good job, guys. The new fighting system, which also included the use of weapons, was a welcome change at the time. Playing it now though, it does feel really stiff, clunky and unrefined, but it was fine back then.
Resident Evil.
On April 30th, 2002, Capcom released the Resident Evil Remake. Now, while I'm not the kind of person to play the same game twice, the original Resident Evil was a milestone in my gaming history, but as much as I loved it, it was severely flawed. So when I found out it was being remade, I immediately expected many of those flaws to be fixed or at least refined. They were. This remake wasn't just a lazy Capcom cash grab, it was a truly refined and at the time, definitive version of a great classic.
Wesker? Jill? Where did they go?
On January 11th, 2005, Capcom decided to prove to gamers that they did know how to switch things up. Now with Resident Evil 4, gone were the tank controls and fixed cameras coupled with pre-rendered backgrounds. Resident Evil 4 was a revolution in survival horror. I got this game late, but played it even later. I played RE4 during the Xbox 360 PS3 generation, way up in this generation, but that proved to me how good this game was. I usually find it hard to return to previous generations, but this time around, it was no stress. Played RE4 all the way till the end with no regrets. Flagship and Capcom released Resident Evil 0 November 10th, 2002. Now while I did enjoy this iteration, it fell victim to the generation change. I got it late and played it even later. I was neck deep in it, till I lost interest and moved on to greater things. That doesn't mean it wasn't good or deserves to be on this list, it simply means it met a premature demise in my gaming history. I would consider playing an HD remaster or remake though.
Billy. Lieutenant Cohen.
So, you seem to know me. Been fantasizing about me, have you?
On February 21st, 2006, Sega released Sonic Riders. It was like a mashup of F-Zero, Mario Kart, and Sonic to me. Racing on some beautiful tracks at breakneck speeds using some of the Sonic All-Stars made for a decent racing experience. I never quite mastered this game, as with most of these kind of warp speed racers, but I did have some decent days with it. On August 25th, 2002, Nintendo released a Mario game with a twist. Super Mario Sunshine caught my attention with its aesthetics. I just loved the way this game looked at the time. When I finally got it and decided to give it a go, I was pleasantly surprised how smooth the whole water jet mechanics were. Now, as I've stated, I'm no Mario fan, and I've honestly never completed a Mario game, including this one. But Mario games like Sunshine and New Super Mario Bros. U definitely caught my attention.
Joe.
On October 7th, 2003, Capcom and Clover Studio released a quirky superhero game with the most retarded name, Beautiful Joe. I'm still wondering what that word beautiful actually means, but whatever. It's an odd game with a stupid name and an even sillier story. But all that aside, this is one smooth side-scroller. Just looking at the game, it might not seem like much, but only minutes in, and I was a believer. Another Gamecube game that definitely earned its place on this list.
Want some? We'll come and get it.
On November 17th, 2001, Nintendo released this gem. Now while this list is in no more than alphabetical order, the irony is, Wave Race Blue Storm is probably my favorite GameCube game anyway. I think it was also the very first title I got for the Cube. The two main components that grabbed me were the visuals and the physics. Now, I don't know what a jet ski really feels like, as I'm not really into water sports, but riding the waves in Blue Storm feels believable, and the graphics are pure eye candy. Loved it then, and would still play it now. So there we go, another top 20 list. I know. Where are all the Mario games? How could a Zelda game not even make it on the list? Guess I'm the video game heretic. Look, I honestly do not have any love for Mario games, Zelda games, Pokemon games, Metal Gear titles. I could go on and on about how many top-rated franchises there are out there that I couldn't give a flying fuck about, actually. Sunshine made it on this list because I try not to fall victim to my own bias. If it's good, then it's good. If you like what you saw here, feel free to hit that like and sub button. If for some reason I pissed you off, we all know where to find those dislike and unsubscribe buttons. Leave a comment below to tell me what games you think I missed out on. What were your top 20 games? Until next time, thanks for playing and thanks for watching.
Here we go.